Yo, what's up guys, Rick Rom here, and we're gonna be doing another episode of the Casual Warrior. I'm not sure what episode we're on. I'm pretty sure it might be the third one, probably, because we played Tekken and or maybe the fourth one, I think, because I talked about a bit of MK. But yeah, we're gonna be doing an episode on Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, and it's a game I wish I put a little bit more time into, but as this game came out on launch week, I didn't even put a lot of time into it because there's a lot of other gaming related stuff that I was focusing on. But now that the whole honeymoon phase for this game has like kind of settled down, a lot of people are kind of like saying their grievances about this game. And before we even get to that, we're just gonna bring up the topic of that today's episode is the Fatal Fury City of the Wolves episode, but it's going to be a little bit more of a somber one. Yeah, I know, right? Following the MK one, we're going to be talking a little bit of Fatal Fury. But unlike MK, this game just started, and the other game, MK1, just ended. And was something a lot of people would like to call that it was a lackluster launch because there was a lot of stuff that people just didn't like about this game. Oh shit, man. A lot of people just didn't like about this game. The starting it off with the marketing of this game, I would say, was pretty weird to me because SNK really wanted to market this game like crazy, but they were treating it like if it was a comeback of like a crazy title we haven't seen in forever. And it is a comeback of an old title we just don't remember. Not remember, but like an old title that has not had like a sequel in forever, like a 26-year sequel. But they were treating it like if it was like the second coming of Street Fighter or MK, and it just wasn't that, man. You know, sorry to say, man, but I love Fatal Fury, I love SNK, and I love, like, you know, KOF and all these games from this publisher. I grew up with some of these games, but man, this game, it just never really took off on the West, man. Like, I know we've got like launches from other games before, like from the KOF Maximum Impact and like KOF and all that stuff, man. Even Samsho, but this series in particular, Fatal Fury, isn't as big as they wanted it to be, and you can already tell by the launch of it. It failed to show a lot of people who are gonna buy this game, and you know, it's hard to think while I'm playing. But a lot of people just don't know a lot about Fatal Fury, man, which was kind of weird to me because I saw all these like marketing pushes for Fatal Fury. Like there was a I Show Speed commercial for a boxing event with him and KSI, I believe, and then there was one for WrestleMania, and there was just a lot of marketing put into this game. And I was like, man, I don't even remember SF4 having like this crazy amount of marketing. You know, and it was just insane because even SF6 didn't have like that big of a marketing, but they really were trying to like put all their eggs in one basket and think that this was going to be like their biggest game of the modern era, and it's just unfortunate to say it's not. And you can tell because the CEO also stepped down, and a lot of people just didn't vibe with the gameplay, but also what didn't vibe with a lot of people were the guest characters that were introduced into Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, which was Salvatore Ganacci, I think that's his name, and you know, Ronaldo. And Ronaldo was a funny meme at first, but a lot of people found out about some stuff about Ronaldo, and they just didn't want to like you know, support the game anymore. I'm not going to get into all that stuff because that's not really my forte, I have to say. Same thing with Salvatore Ganacci. A lot of people did not like him because he was like a real person, but it's more of like a persona looking into it, like kind of like a wrestler or like a DJ. But a lot of people didn't like him because of his ties with the owner of SNK, and you know, that's a whole thing I don't want to get into. It's not really something I want to talk about. I'm going to talk more about the game. But yeah, man, a lot of people just didn't vibe with it, man. Some of the characters were not in the game. You know, we're still missing Freeman, and I think it's his name Jaehoon, not Dongwon, but Jaehoon. is still missing. Grant is not in this game either, and it sucks too because you know, you would expect, since we're going into the future, we would see more like new age characters, unlike Street Fighter where they just completely forgot about it in like most of the Third Strike characters. But yeah, man, and now that I just landed that, I'm gonna talk about the gameplay. The gameplay to me is pretty good, but not great and not fantastic. And I say that because they have this whole rev system and this rev button that you can see that right now, that it's just so alien to me, you know. You know, SNK first and foremost mostly do like 4-button fighters. It follows with the A, B, C, and D button layout, but then they added a new rev button, which is weird to me. And you know, it just it opens up a lot of possibilities for new stuff. There's even like feints in this game, which is insane because a lot of people use that for the Garo team in KOF 15, and now everybody has access to it, and it's pretty cool. But it gets overwhelming to a point where if you play in a higher level, a lot of people just get overwhelmed with like the amount of pressure in this game, especially with the rev system. The rev system feels like I would say a little bit more thought out drive rush system, but not as great, you know. It may feel like a little bit like of a tug of war type of game with it, but I've always been in the thought process, or the thought that EX moves should be tied to your meter, you know. It's something that I don't like having like straight off the bat, you know. I mean, other older games have played it like that before, like especially like the old Gundam Endless Waltz game where you can do like an enhanced version of your special move where you have access to all your meter. I was playing Alpha 3 too, you know, recently, and you know, you can have access to most of your meter in Alpha 3. But there wasn't EX moves and stuff in there, but you know, it's a game where you have to know your stuff, man. Well, in these newer fighting games, everything just feels super overwhelming, man. Like Tekken 8, you know, we'll bring it back there. Pressure is the constant name of the game in there. Same thing with SF6 with the drive rush combos and drive impact. Over here we have SPG, you know. It feels like max mode for like your character every round, you know. I feel like sometimes some people don't even use like their supers because they just go straight for the SPG, Rev Guard, and all that stuff, Rev Low. And you know, it's something I wish that we kind of, you know, maybe we could have delayed the game, or SNK could have delayed the game for like another year, maybe. Wait until like people see a little bit more of the game before it came out, and you know, play test it a little bit and see if people really vibe with the gameplay. And it's just something that I wish could be fixed for modern fighters, man. You know, I feel like everyone's going through a fatigue with all these fighting games where I call it the combo video fighting games, you know, where everyone wants to do the big crazy giant combos and shit, you know. That's what caters like to the esports crowd. Like combos are fucking cool and like long, and look at all this damage and shit, and holy shit, look at the EX meter, and I could have done like a crazier combo, but I misinputted. And look at all this stuff. I'm not letting the other player play a lot, you know. It's like, it's just so overwhelming because you see that in Tekken, you see that in Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat as well with the cameos, and it's just like, it's just insane, man. It's just like so much put out there, and it's like and it's just something like just insane to not talk about, just to see, man. It feels like, you know, fighting games have always been a competitive game in nature. That's basically the point of the game, you know, of these type of games. You gotta beat your opponent, you know. But it's going through something that a lot of modern fighting games, it's just a lot of modern games are going through with the trend hopping and stuff. It's like alienating the fan bases and just like changing what made these games special and stuff, you know. You saw it with like Halo, Overwatch, and now they're reverting back to like this stuff because, yeah, you see that? That's like insane, like EX combos, and everyone has access to that. Kind of like I'm doing some old school like KOF like counter grabs and shit, command grabs. But you know, it's just like this overwhelming mechanic that's just like everyone is just, you know, is divided on. Some people love it, some people hate it. I really do not care for it, man. Same thing when it comes with heat, drive rush, cameos, just like everything to extend your combos, and it's just fucking insane, man. It's just not fun. I like more footsie based stuff, you know. Call me an old head, but that's just what feels a little bit better to me, you know. And of course I like EX moves and stuff, but it feels like something you have to like risk it for, you know. And there is a risk factor for this, but you know, it just feels so overwhelming when it comes to like these games where every move you do or can lead into like a long ass combo with EX moves, or why go for the normal like Repukin when you can just get the EX, you know, and do all that stuff. And it's like, wow, man. And then like you get no like almost little to no punishment, you know. That was on my end because I decided to rush in, but like imagine doing a long ass string with EX combos into a super and not letting your opponent play, and just like, it's insane, man. It's just a game that it's hard to think about playing, you know. I said that already, but you know, there's just a lot going against this game, you know. The marketing probably there's a lot more money probably spent on the marketing and getting the guest characters in here than like trying to play test the game and cater to the older fans. And it's like, you know, what do you think your fan base would have wanted more, Freeman or Ronaldo, you know? Jaehoon or Salvatore? You know, maybe it's cool that we got them in base roster and we're not having to pay for them on the battle pass, kind of like Clive and Tekken. But it's like, who was really asking for like these characters, you know? There's a big divide when it comes to guest characters like nowadays for fighting games, you know? And it's just it's sad too, because it feels less about the gaming part and like the collaboration part and more about spectacle. You can see MK1 where there's adding just a bunch of fucking different comic book characters that are violent and shit, and horror movie characters that just don't fit the theme anymore, like Ghostface doing air combos. Clive in Tekken 8 when people wanted Tifa instead, you know. And I'm not even sure if like Final Fantasy 16, I believe is that game, where he comes from, was super popular. You know, I'm not a big RPG guy. And then you have to look at this game and you're like, holy shit, man, like who the fuck are these characters, you know? Everyone knows who Ronaldo is, you know? It's like if you were to put like fucking LeBron James and Killer Instinct, I don't know. Yeah, everybody would know who that is, but like, really, what is going on here, you know? You know, and it's just like, it's just unfortunate because this game, there's a lot of like good things put out in this game. There's also like a lot of like negative stuff that's just holding it back, you know. For me, like as a SNK fan, as a Fatal Fury fan, you know, I just feel like this could have been something different. Especially coming from like the other games, the other modern games that just fail to grab my attention, like with all the EX craziness and all the pressure. I was like, man, I want like a more traditional footsie based games, you know, more mind games and stuff. And then we get more, you know, take these 50-50 EX scenario combos into like crazy damage, you know, long chains, and it's like insane, you know. You know, and sometimes, and I was reading some of the comments on some modern game, not modern videos about this, talking about how a lot of people just don't like the amount of stuff that doesn't feel like the original, you know, Mark of the Wolves or Fatal Fury. And, you know, we got lane changes, but it's only in one stage, you know. Could you imagine if they brought it back to giving us lane stages? Or planes, I meant. You know, or even give us something cool like a sidestep. That'd be amazing. You know, I feel like this game almost needs like a spot dodge because of how aggressive and crazy it can get, and it's like, man, that's insane. But you know, there's a lot of things that I kind of wish went differently with this game, because you play through the arcade mode. The arcade mode is fucking cool. You know, they continue the story with Rock and Terry, and Nightmare Rock was pretty cool. I have not played the episodes of Southtown. I couldn't be bothered to play that, man. I didn't even finish Street Fighter 6. World Tour mode, and I never fucking played the Tekken 8 story. I don't care for it. You know, I'd rather we just go back to arcade modes, man. Like back in the, you know, like in the old days, you know, like have shit like SF4 doing that, you know. And I played the MK1 story mode. I didn't play the expansion story mode, and I just did not care for that either. I think that's such a yeah. It had some cool moments, but it wasn't like something that was up to par to like the older games. Watch this. Look at that, dude. Just an insane, crazy armor move. That's like one button. It's like holy shit, dude. Did I feel like I earned that win, or did it feel like a rage arc, just like cutting to the point, you know? I'm glad we're not doing auto combos anymore. That was something I hated in KOF 15. But much like auto combos, how that was like in almost every fighting game for like a few years ago, you know, like Dragon Ball Fighters, KOF, you know. What else? Oh, MVCI. They slowly started getting rid of that, and they did smart style or modern controls like in SF6, and everyone just kind of follows that. And I feel like that's always been a thing, like with auto in older Marvel Capcom games. But I really hope we move past like all this crazy amount of pressure, like EX, dare I say EX lock, because it just doesn't feel like old school fighting games, and that's what made like a lot of people like the games, you know. And just to bring it back to like Fatal Fury's launch, it's like, dude, compare Fatal Fury's launch to Capcom Fighting Collection 2, you know, that's unfair. That's like a bunch of different old games, and you know, CVS is in that collection too, you know. And you know, you would think a sequel to Fatal Fury would do a little bit better, even in like other areas of the world, like in Latin America and in Japan. But apparently there's a really bad pricing there for the newer games, and a lot of people are just getting turned off by it, you know. And look how I didn't even have to think. I just did an EX combo and it just landed, and it's just unfortunate, man. I feel like I was rambling a bit in this video, but what I really want to say is, man, dude, Fatal Fury's launch just did not seem like it was very well received from fans, outsiders, and casuals alike, because I've even seen that SNK promoted this game with VTubers and you know, with other VTubers. I think you're the Hololive ones, you know, I forgot some of their names because I don't watch Modern Hololive anymore, but they could not play the game like crazy, even though they weren't like big like fighting game fans. You could tell they couldn't do anything, man, because they were fighting like a bunch of people just doing crazy amount of EX Kevin feint combos and all this stuff, and it's like, holy shit, dude, this feels like so one-sided. And man, it's just what most modern fighting games feel like, man. It just feels like an overwhelming crazy pressure game where one hit you're gonna get like a bunch of your health just getting like melted down, you know. And that's not to say that most fighting games weren't like that back in the day. There really was games like that, but your opponent knew exactly what to do, and he or she, you know, depending on who was playing, you know, had to master all this stuff. While now, you know, the input windows for these games are just getting really how do I say, lenient. And it sucks to say it, because when I was playing Alpha 3 on the Capcom Collection online, and I was like, dude, this is like so much back and forth, dude, it's so cool. I'm doing my super with V'ism, and then the other guy's doing his super with Xism, but he's doing like Guile fucking chains and shit, and you know those things aren't easy to do. And we're just going back and forth, man. You know, it could be anyone's game, while over here it's like, you know, who's gonna dog walk the other person like first, and it's like, holy shit, dude. And you see that in Tekken 8, you see that where it's like, oh, he popped heat, okay, he's gonna get more damage, he's gonna get the fucking chip damage, and then he's gonna go into like all these crazy armor moves and just like the insane combos that take forever. You're from one part of the stage all the way to the end of it, and it's like, you see that with other games too, with the drive rush combos. Over here you see that with the rev system, where it's just a bunch of just fucking insane EX max mode fucking combos that just like last forever but take a lot of damage because you're an SPG. And it's like, holy shit, dude, do I get to play the game I like paid for? Meanwhile, you go back and you play older games, and like the input windows are a little bit harder to do. You know, I was dropping inputs in Alpha 3, trying to do like Hadoukens or half circle, motions, and those games aren't lenient. But you take into account is that when these games were made back in the day, people were playing these in the arcades, and they wanted you to keep playing. But over here, they want you to keep playing, but you get that instant gratification of, I land this fucking long ass fucking combo, I'm not letting my opponent play, and I'm winning. While the opponent is like has nothing here. Whoever was playing has like nothing they can do about it, and it's like it's insane, man. It's crazy. What also a lot of people just didn't like, just looking at the menu, is of course the menu. The battle pass. There is no battle pass here, but the season pass, I can pretty much say is good. But those two guest characters for Chun-Li and Ken should have been like the last of it. That should have been where we stopped for guest characters. Because that's very thematically fitting for Fatal Fury. There's a time jump here and there's a time jump in SF6. We're not doing the whole crossover already. We're having guests come over. The same thing. We repaid the favor with like SF6 with Mai and Terry. Even though SF6 isn't like my favorite Street Fighter game, I knew how cool it was to see Mai and Terry in SF6. Same thing with kind of like their equivalent over here, which is Ken and Chun-Li. That's going to be coming. But instead of getting what we wanted, or what a lot of SNK fans wanted, which was the full Garo roster moving forward, we only got like 2 new characters and 2 guest characters that no one was really asking for, dude. And I know Ronaldo's the meme. Salvatore people are liking because he has the whole like cool like collabs going on, or like with Maximilian, dude. But like, who was asking for him, man? And he has cool animations. Ronaldo has some cool like animations as well. But it's like, man, would it have been cheaper and more catering to your fan base just to give us Freeman and Jaehoon? It feels incomplete. It's like if SF6 were to launch with just Yoon and without Yang, even though Yoon's been in other games before without Yang. But it's like, dude, this isn't right. What if SF4, like the later entries, were launched with just Yoon and not Yang, but they had to have them together, But that's the sad thing is, man, it's just there's a lot of disconnect happening with these fighting game companies. I don't want to be like, they forgot where they came from, man. They don't even remember us no more. But that's what it's feeling like, man. It just sucks, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not going to be playing this fucking episodes of Southtown. I thought it was just like, like a budget version of World Tour, and not really even like really crazy about World Tour. I'd rather just play the arcade modes, to be honest, which is cool that they at least gave us that, And you can change the jukebox, and there's a lot of things I wish you could change here. Like it's cool to have a jukebox, but like if you can't have like a random select stage in your fighting game, why even have it? And if you're only gonna be using like one song and one stage, what's the point of having this fucking thing? We can check right now and see if it changes, but see, there's no like random stage button, no random OST. So you spend all this money on all this stuff, and it's like, wow, okay, what's going on here, man? Like, why are we spending a lot of money on stuff we're not going to be using? The character select screen is something I advocate a lot for modern fighting games. Is like, I don't like to have one selected character just to go online, and then it just makes the game load a bit faster. But it's like, dude, I was playing the Capcom Fighting Collection, and you load back into character select screen, and you're like, okay, we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna go into fighting. Okay, I didn't like this outcome. I'm gonna go pick fucking Ken, and because I was getting my ass beat with Ryu, and I miss that stuff when it comes to fighting games. MK1 did something like that, and while the older NRS games, you could have like changed your characters like during a ranked match. But yeah, man, I'm diving away from the topic. But Fatal Fury had a lackluster launch. You can see it because not a lot of copies were sold. The CEO stepped down. I'm pretty sure he spent a lot of money on the guest characters and marketing. That was crazy. They had a fucking commercial with Ado. Ado's like one of my favorite fucking Japanese singers of the modern time, and it's like, I've never seen fucking Ado talk about Fatal Fury, dude. Shit, maybe she has. I don't know. I'm not that like in tune with it, but it's like, You know, it just didn't make that big of an impact, man, and it sucks, man. This is what happens when you don't cater to your fan bases, man. It's just like, it's cool that we see all these collaborations, but it's more, you gonna like think about it. Is it more spectacle, or is it something that you really want to like cater your fan base? Like Chun and Ken were cool, man. They were cool, like announcements, and people were hype. Maybe you could have gone a step further. We could have got like a time skip, like Kyo, or like we could have got Mr. Karate Ryo again launching with this game. And do you think people would have been more sold on that than the guest characters? But yeah, man, just I would say give this game a chance, but only like if you're gonna buy it on sale. I would not justify this getting this game on a full price. You know, maybe now, not now, but like when it was like on sale with the fighter pass. I would say just give this game a little bit more time to cook. Maybe as the game is evolving, or people are finding a lot of stuff that they don't like about it, maybe we'll see a lot more different mechanics. They did that with Sam Show with Guard Break, and they did that with KOF with like the whole armor versions of the CDs. But you know, I feel like this game just needed to go back to its roots. Feels like more old school, man. Feel like a little bit better, you know, rather than trying to follow the trend of pressure is always the better option, you know. That could just be me, maybe because I'm not really in tune with modern fighting games and I just don't have the time to learn them. That could be my end. But you know, it's cool. I'm very glad we saw Fatal Fury make a comeback, but I guess it wasn't the comeback a lot of people wanted it to be. And you know, it's no lie. You know, if it weren't true, you know, the CEO would have kept his position. But now I guess a lot of things just didn't go well for this game. And hopefully, within the next like couple years, this game just evolves into a better game. You know, it's still pretty early. A lot of people are still finding like bullshit combos, but a lot of people are saying that they're really enjoying the game. You know, it really does come down to personal preference, but it's a game that I feel like it's going to be like another Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 for me, where I tried so hard to get into these games, but I just cannot find a way to like it, man. And it's always down to the mechanics, man. Like, if Tekken 8 didn't have the fucking heat, dude, I would have loved that shit, man. If SF6 wasn't so heavy when the drive rush, you know, if MK1 didn't have like all these cameo combos, if this game wasn't so super reliant on the rev system and shit, you know, it's so alien to me, you know, coming from a longtime fan. But you know, at this point it feels like a ramble video. But yeah, man, it just, damn, I just don't know what to say, man. It's just I was looking forward to Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, but now it just does not have that same like aura and vibe that Mark of the Wolves had, that even like something as recent as KOF 15 had. And I guess that's probably one of the big reasons why Fatal Fury just didn't do that well, because it's not KOF. You know, KOF has characters from all over SNK's like history, and you get more for your package. You get a bunch of characters in like 3v3, and then they added like the Garo and Samsho team. Samsho, that was something that did leave a bigger impact on a lot of people. You know, a lot of people love Samsho. It's very different than what we had with other games coming out at the time. But yeah, man, it's just sad to see that this was a lackluster launch. I'm gonna try and give this game a little bit more time. I'm gonna give it like more benefit of the doubt that it does feel different than SF6 and Tekken 8. But if we were to simplify it a little bit more, it just feels like, you know, who can do the EX combo a little bit faster and better, and who can maximize your damage at a, you know, crazier amount. And you know, it sucks, man. It's cool seeing that all these fighting games are reaching the mainstream, but it comes with a cost of just like, damn, we're losing it, man. It could be age, or it could be just like, man, we're not just in tune with these games anymore. But we'll save that topic for another time. Are we getting too old for these games, or are these games just changing way too much for its core audience? But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about what my ramblings was talking about? Are you guys enjoying Fatal Fury City of the Wolves? Or are you going to hold off on it until like it goes on sale? Are you going to give it more time? Or are you going to wait for like a few more characters to come out? And what do you think about all the marketing and, you know, probably the cost of all these characters coming into this game? You know, was it a waste of resources, or was it something you thought it was pretty cool? But yeah, until next time, I know this was a little bit more of a somber type of video, but next time we'll try to make it more hype. We're going to talk about the Capcom Fighting Collection, probably, or another type of fighting game that I think is really cool. But yeah, this has been episode, I think, 4 of The Casual Warrior, and until next time, I await your return, warriors.
Continue.